like to begin this morning's homily with a somewhat embarrassing confession. You see, I have fallen madly in love. And it's okay, my wife and children already know. But it's a little embarrassing. I've fallen madly in love, and the object of my affection is this wonderful soul group whose name is Marie Kondo. Some of you know who she is. If you don't know who she is, Marie Kondo is the author of a couple books. The first was The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, and the second is Spark Joy. And you might have seen her on Netflix. She has a show called Tidying Up. If you don't have Netflix, don't get it, but if you have Netflix, make sure you put Tidying Up on your watch list, because it's wonderful. And Marie Kondo, since basically since she was a child, has dedicated herself to understanding tidying up and living in a tidying up world, and has come up with a system called the KonMari method, based on her name, which is absolutely brilliant. And I want to share a little bit about it with you because I think it is an excellent method for accomplishing what we just heard in the gospel today. The gospel of Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus goes up in the tree, looks to see who the Lord is, and the Lord says, I must come to your house. How many of you, when the priest came and said, I want to come bless your house this year, said, oh, not my house, Lord. But Zacchaeus probably felt that shiver of, oh my gosh, what is this? But he heard that the people, oh, how Jesus knew what kind of man this was, right? He wouldn't go there. He's gone to be a guest of a sinner. So Zacchaeus is somehow emboldened to an extraordinary act of repentance, and he says, Lord, look, half of my goods, I give it to the poor, and if I've taken anything from anyone by false accusation, I'll give it back fourfold. And Jesus says a remarkable thing. He says, behold, this is a son of Abraham. Today salvation has come to his house. That's wonderful. That's beautiful. Wouldn't you like to hear that in your life? The Lord saying, today salvation has come to this house. To my house. To my house. But I don't know if I want to give up half of my goods. And I don't know if I've taken anything from anyone anyway by false accusation, so I don't know if I have any amends to make in that respect, but hear me out. The KonMari method understands that the problem with tidying up, the reason why we tidy things up and then within like a few weeks it's back to where it was, it gets messy again, is that we're doing it wrong. It's because we're just shifting things around and trying to move them to a different place. But as soon as we create a vacuum, nature abhors it, right? And it just gets filled back in. And then we end up, sometimes we end up having worse. Now, I've blessed many of your homes, and some of you are on different points on the scale, shall we say, the KonMari scale. Not that there is, but... So don't feel embarrassed if you are, and don't feel proud if you are, because you may still have the problem. The problem is that we don't have the things, we have too many things, first of all, and we don't have the things in our life that are really meaningful, the things that spark joy, she says. I think that's a great way of understanding how to know what you should have in your house, is sparking joy. You should have joy about the things that you have. As Christians, we understand joy on a very deep level. Joy is not a bad thing for us. Joy, we would say rejoice, rejoice all the time. We're singing rejoice. Have joy. Joy for us is based not on what simply gives pleasure, right? Because if we surrounded ourselves based on what just gave us pleasure, most of us would probably live in a Starbucks and a Cinnabon or something, just with the smell, you know? It's just, that's our house. Some of us have candles, so we do, actually. So, but joy is something that sparks something deep within you that reaffirms who you are in relationship to your whole life, to God, to the people you love. It connects you to that deep fabric of life and existence itself. And she says that when you go through your things, touch each one. We talked about the healing power touch last year. Touch each one, and the things that spark joy for you, you will physically feel it. Do you know what I mean? Have you ever had this experience? You pick up a piece of clothing that you're like, ugh. Or you even look at it, ugh. You're like, why do I even have this anymore? I used to have a collection of tube socks. My wife was nagging me for years, get rid of the tube socks. I was like, but I might need them someday. Get rid of the things that don't spark joy. And the things that do, you'll know. You'll feel it and say, yeah, that's something that's important. And she goes through and she says, the other thing is we do it the wrong way because we do it by space. The problem is that there's always a different space to move the things to, right? So we just end up shuffling things around. Don't do it by space, do it by category, and do it all together. Do it all at once. She said the whole process of tidying up, it may take you up to 6 months. But once you do it, you'll never have to do it again. Because you will have given up the things that don't spark joy, and you'll only have the things that spark joy, and you'll be sensitive to joy so that you won't let those things that clutter get back in. So it's a really beautiful system. You start with your clothes, because that's the easiest to kind of get rid of and give away. Then you work on books. Some of us have a lot of books. There's a meme going around that Marie Kondo says don't have more than 30 books. That's not true. She didn't say that. She says for her, she probably has no more than 30 books. But there are a lot of things. Now, how does this work with Zacchaeus, though, and salvation coming to your house? I'll get to that. After books, there's papers, and after that's miscellaneous stuff, and finally it's the sentimental things, the keepsakes, which some of which you might want to get rid of. Okay, so you do each category in a row. Now Zacchaeus said, look, Lord, I give half of my goods to the poor, and if I've taken anything falsely, I restore it fourfold. The first thing is to tidy up, focus not on how you're going to sort it, how you're going to store it. First, focus on getting rid of the stuff that you don't want, that doesn't spark the joy. Just focus on that. Now we're in a throwaway culture to begin with, so I don't want to encourage just throwing things away unless they really are just garbage. And we're Orthodox, we have holy garbage. You know, all of those palm fronds and paper icons and holy little things you've collected, the knick-knack and bric-a-brac of God. So we even have our own problem as Orthodox with clutter that's holy. Maybe it's time to have open a little fire pit in your backyard and give those back to God. That's a good spring cleaning practice, and I do that myself actually. And I take the stuff that we've collected here in the altar and I do the same with it. But get rid of this stuff. And you will find, people find on average, they're ready to dispose of 15 to 40 garbage bags worth of stuff out of their house, on average. And they would not consider themselves hoarders or have a problem with clutter. But once it starts moving, and the log jam breaks, and the feeling of positivity comes from tidying up, you want to get rid of it. And so you may not, some of it may be just garbage, you may throw it away. Some of it is worthy to donate. It can be good for somebody else, for the poor. St. Basil, I think it was, or maybe it was St. John Chrysostom, one of the two of the great fathers, said, look at that cloak in your closet, the coat in your closet that you're not wearing, you are stealing it from the poor man. Did you ever think of that? The things that you have that are going unused could be used by someone who can't afford to buy them themselves. You know, I like to have a couple different coats, but I've given away a lot of coats. And I used to have a lot of things that I was like, I'm never going to wear these. I got rid of them. It's so good. And if you can actually give them to somebody who really needs them and see that, that's positive too. Other things, maybe it's to be recycled. Maybe it's to be donated somewhere where it can be used. Now, gigantic asterisk. The church, the parish, is not the place to bring your junk. Except when we ask you to for the rummage sale. A lot of people say, oh, I bet the church could use that. If you don't want to use it at your house, chances are nobody wants to use it here either. It doesn't need to clutter up this space either. We have a problem here. This sermon is to announce to you, KonMari is now in effect at St. Mary's. There's a lot of rooms down in the basement that are going to get overhauled, trust me, and it's already started. So, there's a library we have though, and we're trying to build our collection, which is good, but we need a librarian to process that. So don't rush us with a bunch of books yet. And we already have probably a lot of books you have, so be careful about that. Your public library though probably doesn't have any books on Eastern Orthodoxy or Christianity, period. Think about that. Think about all the people that might discover Orthodoxy by finding a book that they never would have found if you hadn't donated. If you're not reading Callistos Ware anymore, give it away. It was helpful for you when you converted, maybe. You don't need it now. A lot of your books you don't need now. And so forth and so on. This also brings up the taken from false accusation. Now, most of us would say, I haven't taken anything by false accusation. I haven't said, hey, you owe me this and you have to pay up. No. But we are holding on to a lot of things based on false premises. Right? What are those false premises? My kids might want it someday. I might need it someday. I might use it. Well, I use it once or twice a year, so I should hold on to it. You know the excuses, the false premises that excuse you from discarding things that you really don't need in your house, that could be better off used by somebody else. So be honest. This is a self-seeking process. You are going to learn more about yourself through the Zacchaeus process of KonMari, if you will, than you will through a year's worth of confession. Because you will be forced to look at your whole past. You'll find things. Well, I remember this. I remember why this was important to me. I remember why I haven't looked at it in a long time, or haven't used it in a long time, or haven't worn it in a long time, right? That's all really good. And one of the things that I really, really like about Marie Kondo is that she says when you discover something that you're going to give away, don't just treat it like garbage, even though you might throw it in the garbage. But for things you're going to, especially things you're going to donate that have value still, thank the item. Thank the item. This is a very nice idea. We can thank God if you feel weird about thanking the item itself, right? But I don't think it's wrong to even thank the item, because it makes it very personal. It's like, you know, thank you. You were important to me at one time. I enjoyed wearing you once, or I enjoyed reading you once, or I enjoyed using you once, but I don't need you anymore. You've done your job. This is true of gifts, by the way. A lot of people give us gifts, and we're stuck with all this stuff. What do I do with all this stuff that people give? Regifting is perfectly virtuous. If you got some stuff at Christmas, feel free. And whoever you regift it to might regift it as well. Because the gift is in the giving and in the love that you're showing. It's not an item. Don't feel obliged to hold on to something forever. You know, well, what if they come over and they don't see it anymore? Well, you know, if that's what it was about, then that wasn't love, right? They gave it to you because they loved you. Love them back, and they wouldn't even notice, right? So whatever false ideas we have about our situation and what is going on in our house today or in our homes today, and all these things we're holding on to because we exteriorize our emotions into our things. A lot of times we're just buying things to make ourselves feel better anyway, right? So it's directly exteriorizing. But we also keep things because of emotional attachments. We don't need to. We don't need to. We need to reclaim the feeling, reclaim the love, reclaim the hurt, whatever it is, and say, thank you. You've served your purpose. I learned what I needed to learn from you. Sometimes I learned that I don't like that kind of thing anymore, or I don't read that kind of stuff anymore, I don't wear those kind of clothes anymore. Whatever. And you thank it and you let it go. And, you know, your soul is cleansed. It's cleansed. So brothers and sisters, if you want salvation to come into your house and you want to practice Zacchaeus-style asceticism, learn to disattach yourself from earthly things. We say it in liturgy every Sunday, lay aside all earthly cares. But then we go back to our dragon's hoard of junks. but we don't need it. We don't need it. Marie Kondo says that after you've gotten through this process, you will get to the sweet spot of your life, where you will discover the exact right balance for you of how many things you really need, of how many items you actually want to keep. And when you hit that sweet spot, you'll feel it. The energy in your life will change. And you will be able to keep your house clean because you'll always stay on that level, right? And you won't want to throw it off. And if you do, it's maybe time to check why. What's going on in my life? What's the stress? What's the worry? Why am I not paying attention to it? She said she studied personality types, life situations. None of that made a difference. As long as people approach this process from the focus of what sparks joy, what brings you to that place. It doesn't matter what kind of person you are, or how many things you have, what kind of life you live, you can get to this wonderful state of peace. And brothers and sisters, I hope that you will be able to do that and find that when you do this, you feel that same blessing that Zacchaeus felt. That you have been restored to the fullness of your dignity as a child of God, as a son or daughter of Abraham. And that you sense salvation has come to your house. God bless you.